Hola a todos y bienvenidos. I'm Andrew Barr and welcome back to Real Fast Spanish. In this video, you're going to learn about the differences between the Spanish verbs ir versus irse. Specifically, you're going to learn about the subtle changes that occur both in meaning and in how we should use these two verbs in a Spanish sentence. You're also going to learn about a few common errors we see Spanish students making with these two verbs. So if you want to learn about the subtle differences between ir versus irse and how to use them in your next Spanish conversation, then keep watching. Vamos! In Spanish, whenever you see a verb with se on the end, this means that it is a reflexive verb, and almost all verbs in Spanish, with very few exceptions, have both a reflexive and non-reflexive version of the verb. For example, the verbs dar, comer, and ir can become darse, comerse, and irse. Of course, in this video, we're going to look in depth at the verbs ir versus irse, but you should also take note that irse is the most commonly occurring Spanish reflexive verb, which means this is a verb that you need to know really well. So let's start by having a look at the differences between ir and irse in terms of their meaning. So if we're going to translate ir back to English, this means to go. Now, whenever we add se to the end of a verb, this can mean himself, herself, or oneself. So a possible translation of irse is to go oneself. Now, of course, it doesn't make sense to say to go oneself in English. And while this does work with other Spanish reflexive verbs like vestirse, to dress yourself, or lavarse, to wash yourself, we need to find a different translation for irse because to go oneself really doesn't sound right. A better translation of irse is to leave. Now that we know that the verbs ir and irse mean to go and to leave, we can notice that these two verbs behave in a very similar way to the English verbs. So for example, in English, going and leaving in some situations are completely interchangeable, and in some situations they're not. Specifically, the verb ir is focused on a destination. I'm going to the beach. I'm going to the doctor's. Whereas irse is not necessarily focused on a destination, but on the process of leaving. So when are you leaving? I'm leaving as soon as I finish this project. Where are you going? It doesn't matter. I'll be leaving then. Now, ir is a very irregular verb in Spanish. So before we look at some examples, let's have a look at the conjugations of this verb. So the conjugations of ir are voy, I go, vas, you go, va, he or she goes, vamos, we go, and van, they go. Now, to form the conjugations of a reflexive verb, we simply take the conjugations of the normal non-reflexive form, and then we add the reflexive pronouns. So we have me voy, I leave, te vas, you leave, se va, he or she leaves, nos vamos, we leave, se van, they leave. Okay, now we can have a look at a few examples of ir. Imagine you want to say to someone, today I'm going to the beach. This in Spanish is hoy voy a la playa. Hoy voy a la playa. Another example, we are going to the park this morning. Vamos al parque esta mañana. Vamos al parque esta mañana. Let's have a look at a few examples for irse. Imagine you want to ask someone, when are you leaving? This in Spanish would be ¿Cuándo te vas? ¿Cuándo te vas? Now another example, imagine you are asking a mutual friend about two friends that are leaving on a trip soon. So you could ask them, when are they leaving? And the answer could be, they are leaving on Thursday. They are leaving on Thursday. This in Spanish is se van el jueves. Se van el jueves. Now I mentioned earlier that we don't need a destination with the verb irse in Spanish. But just like English, we can add a destination to a sentence with irse if we want to. In English, we can say something like, I'm leaving for Spain on Tuesday. This in Spanish is me voy a España el martes. Me voy a España el martes. Now, a question that often comes up with Spanish students, specifically in regards to this sentence, is what is the difference between me voy a España el martes and voy a España el martes. Well, if I was to translate both of these two sentences to English, we would get, I'm leaving for Spain on Tuesday and I'm going to Spain on Tuesday. And so I'd put this question to you. What is the difference between I'm leaving for Spain on Tuesday and I'm going to Spain on Tuesday? In reality, there's not a big difference. Both sentences express the idea that on Tuesday next week, I'm going to be on a plane. I'm not going to be here anymore because I'm going to be in Spain. Now, the only real difference is sort of the grammar around I'm leaving for and I'm going to, which in Spanish is simply me voy a or voy a. Now, another way to use ir and irse, instead of talking about a destination that we're going to, we can also use this construction to talk about an action that we're about to do. So for example, imagine you're out with friends having lunch and at the end of the meal, you want to say, I'm going to work, right? To imply that you have to go back to work. This in Spanish is voy a trabajar. Voy a trabajar. Now you could also say, me voy a trabajar. Me voy a trabajar. And again, similar to traveling to Spain, going back to work, talking about leaving the situation you're currently in to go and do some action. There's not a lot of difference between these two sentences. But there are situations in Spanish where we can't use ir and irse interchangeably. Going back to the situation where you're out having lunch with friends, instead of saying I'm going to work or I'm going back to work, you simply want to say I'm going. Now the temptation might be to think that you can say voy to mean I'm going, or me voy to say I'm leaving, because in English we really can say I'm going, I'm leaving, and there's not a big difference. But in actual fact, in Spanish there is a difference. And my recommendation is that you think of voy as a sentence on its own, as a one-word sentence, as to mean I'm going to. So in English, when you get to the end of the meal and you stand up and you say I'm going to, everybody's going to look at you and say, you're going to what? What are you going to do? Where are you going? Same thing in Spanish. If you stand up at the end of the meal and you say, voy, then everybody's going to say, ¿a dónde vas? ¿Qué vas a hacer? What are you going to do? Where are you going? So it's really important to think of voy as meaning I'm going to, as opposed to I'm going. So if you simply want to say I'm going or I'm leaving in Spanish, then you need to say me voy. Me voy. Now another option, instead of saying I'm going or I'm leaving, you might want to say I have to go. Now this phrase in particular, we see a lot of Spanish students making mistakes. So if you want to say I have to go, then you need to start with the phrase I have to, which in Spanish is tengo que, and then you need to add irse to the end. But it's really important. You can't just add irse. This is tempting because it's the infinitive verb, but you need to match the reflexive pronoun se with the subject of the sentence. So I have to go is tengo que irme, which in English is kind of like saying I have to go myself, which is I have to leave. Now, other conjugations would look like this. You have to go, tienes que irte. He or she has to go, tiene que irse. We have to go, tenemos que irnos. They have to go, tienen que irse. And we also have another option with these sentences. We can also move the position of the pronoun from the end to the start. And therefore, the sentences become I have to leave, me tengo que ir. You have to leave, te tienes que ir. He or she has to leave, se tiene que ir. We have to leave, nos tenemos que ir. They have to leave, se tienen que ir. Now, for the last part of this lesson, we're going to look at voy as a sentence on its own, because we can use voy as a sentence without anything else around it, but we just need some context in order to do it. So going back to the scenario where you're out with friends having lunch, and one of your friends stands up and says, I'm going to go and order a red wine. This in Spanish is voy a pedir un vino tinto. Voy a pedir un vino tinto. Now, while your friend gets up to order a red wine, you might want to ask them to order a soft drink for you. This in Spanish would be me puedes pedir un refresco, por favor. Me puedes pedir un refresco, por favor. Now, your friend can respond to this request sort of like we could in English. We could say, yeah, I'm going to. Yes, I will. This in Spanish is sí voy. Sí voy. So as you can see in this sentence, sí voy means yes, I'm going to, or yes, I will in English. And so you can't say this in isolation, just out of nowhere, see boy or boy, everybody's going to be like, what are you going to do? But it's really obvious when you ask someone to do something for you and they say, yep, I'm going to, yes, I will, see boy. Now, another example, imagine you're living with someone and you want to ask them if they are going to take out the rubbish. This in Spanish is, ¿vas a sacar la basura? ¿Vas a sacar la basura? To respond to this question, you could simply say, sí, ya voy. Sí, ya voy. And this in English is kind of like saying, yes, I'm going to already, like leave me alone, or yes, I'm going to now. So as you can see, if you have a question, if you have some prior context before asking you to do something, you can simply say, yes, I will. Yes, I'm going to. Sí, boy. Are you going to go hiking this weekend? Sí, boy. Are you going to finish your food? Sí, boy. Are you coming to the meeting this afternoon? Sí, boy. All right, that ends this lesson on ir versus irse. If you have any questions or comments, then please leave them below. If you like this video, then give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed, then please subscribe. Also, if you want to get more tips like this, we have a weekly newsletter called Español de la Semana. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, I'll leave a link below in the description. So on that note, thank you so much for watching. Gracias por ver, and I'll speak with you soon. Hasta pronto.